Hi everyone, this is Ellen from the Astrology Journal. I just want to go over how to use the Earth Explorer, the United States Geological Survey Earth Explorer. As I explained in my video on the sidereal time calculator, I'm using this to find latitude and longitude because it is a government source and therefore public domain as government resources are. There are exceptions to that, so I'm not a lawyer, so check to, if you want to be certain, check to make sure this is actually public domain, but I assume that because it's online and freely available, it is therefore a public domain. And that assumption could be wrong. It's always possible. Anyway, I use it because it's public domain. The reason I use it because it's public domain is because I want to keep a database in Notion and I want to find resources that aren't copyrighted, because if they're copyrighted, I can't carry those over and enter those into a database and keep a database, because that would be violating the copyright. So I'm looking for resources that aren't restricted in that way. One of the reasons I was really looking for a latitude and longitude finder that I could use that information from was because one of the things I want to do in Notion is create a latitude and longitude database, so that when I create a chart database, I can draw, rather than having to type in the latitude and longitude for every location every time. If I'm using the same location a number of times, rather than having to redo all that, I can just create a field that draws from the latitude and longitude table. And then actually I can create other fields that draw from that. So being able to find this resource has been really helpful, because it's going to allow me to do a lot more in the Notion database. And I think I explained this in the video that I did on the sidereal time calculator. The reason that I want to do this is, this to me, creating a Notion database is an intermediary step as I learn kind of all the kind of astrology basics I need to learn to be able to eventually create a software program, or create by myself, or more likely together with somebody, create a software program that makes it possible to generate phase astrology charts. But right now, I feel like I'm using my time best by learning how to do all this, how to calculate charts by hand, and how to understand all the resources, understand the places I need to go to be able to draw resources that I can potentially use as part of a software program, like that a software program can potentially draw from. And just learn how to use all these different resources, and understand some of the astronomy, and understand just some of the basics. So that's where I am right now. And so I came across this website, and this is great. It allows me to find the latitude and longitude for any place on Earth. So the way that this works, enter search criteria. I don't know, frankly, what this stuff is. So this database is to be able to find specific landmarks, I guess, and things like that. I'm not using it for that. I'm using it specifically for the latitude and longitude. So apparently there's a lot you can do with this. I don't understand how to do all of it, but let's say we want, but we can go down, let's see what this says. Feature path row. So I haven't experimented with this. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do that as part of this. But right now I've just been using this. And then I go to US, because usually the places I'm looking for are in the US. But if you want to find a world feature, you just click on this world tab. And then you type in whichever one you're using. You just type in the name of in our case, it'll be a city. So let's just say for the Virgo new moon chart that we're doing for the chart calculation course on my Astrology Journal Substack, just type in that's located. We've located it for Los Angeles, California. And, or actually, I forgot, we don't need to type in California here. We just type in California, and then we type in, we select the state, California. And then we don't have to worry about this, although I'm kind of curious. Zip code. Oh, interesting. So we could actually do it by zip code. That's interesting. So there are lots of choices here, which I haven't played around with, but we can just do show. And it's going to give us Los Angeles populated place 34.052 minus 118.2437. So we have our latitude and longitude right there in decimal degrees. It doesn't give us the degrees, minutes, and seconds. So when it's decimal degrees, it's going to give a positive number for longitude. It's going to give a positive number for anything east of Greenwich, because anything east of Greenwich, the sun will have risen before it's risen in Greenwich. So it's going to be later in the day in Greenwich. I'm sorry, in any place east of Greenwich than in Greenwich. So in other words, if we were to convert the time from Greenwich to a place east of Greenwich, we would have to add hours. So that's going to be a positive longitude. Any place west of Greenwich is going to be a negative longitude, because the sun hasn't yet risen. It's risen in Greenwich, hasn't yet gotten to any place west of Greenwich. So time-wise, it's going to be, say, noon in Greenwich, but it's going to be 5 a.m. somewhere else. So the time is going to be behind Greenwich. So it's a negative number. We would subtract hours. If we were in Greenwich and we wanted to know what time it was in Los Angeles, we would subtract the time zone difference to figure out what time it was in Los Angeles. So if it's noon in Greenwich, minus 8 hours, that gives us 2 in the morning? No, 4 in the morning. That's 4 in the morning, Los Angeles. So in terms of latitude, latitude and longitude are north and south. If it's north of the equator, it's going to be a positive latitude. And if it's south of the equator, it's going to be a negative latitude. So we have 34, it's a positive latitude. North of the equator, Los Angeles is north of the equator. We have a negative longitude. Los Angeles is west of Greenwich. We have a negative longitude. So, and then there are conversions. You can easily convert these numbers. Well, easily, you have to do a little bit of math to convert these numbers. You can use a degree calculator to convert them. But you can convert latitude and longitude, decimal degrees, to degrees, minutes, and seconds. You can also convert degrees, minutes, and seconds to decimal degrees. I have a couple of videos on my Patreon page showing how to do that. By hand, because I think it's always good to know how to do things by hand. Math is really hard for me. It does not come easily to me. I actually kind of like math. I kind of like doing the problems, but my answers usually are wrong, because there's always either my brain does some weird glitchy thing, or there's some little thing I'm not understanding. So I had to take time to learn how to do this. And I recommend that if you don't know how to do it, I recommend you take the time to learn how to do it. It's just nice to have that in the toolkit. It just, for me, it gives a little bit more security in what I'm doing and understanding, but also it allows me to create, and you also, if you want to create calculators in Notion using their databases. So I want to create that latitude, longitude database. Well, I can punch in these numbers, because this is a public domain site. So I can punch in these latitude and longitudes and decimal degrees, and I can create formulas that automatically convert those to degrees, minutes, and seconds. And so I can have both available to work with if I want to. So that's one. So to me, that's one of the benefits of using Notion, actually, for what that's worth. Anyway, I think that's all. So this is how you use the latitude and longitude finder on the USGS Earth Explorer site. There are, of course, places there are other resources you can use that give you both degrees and decimal give you latitude and longitude in both decimal degrees and degrees, minutes, and seconds. But I haven't found any that are public domain. So again, that's why I use this, and that's also why I'm thankful for Notion, frankly, because it allows me to do those calculations pretty easily. And instead of, I could do those calculations easily using actually this. I have this really nice degree calculator that's free on Android. I just type in degree calculator and this comes up. And I can type in these numbers. So for example, we'll do the latitude 34.0522 degrees. And that automatically gives me the degrees, minutes, and seconds. So this is the decimal degrees that I typed in. This is the degrees, minutes, and seconds. 34 degrees, 3 minutes, 7.92 seconds. But in order to get this, I have to first punch in the number, and then if I want to have it in my Notion database, I then have to convert it to, actually enter it in. But if I just have to enter in one number, the latitude and longitude, and then just take one time set up the formulas for converting those. It can be a number of steps to actually be able to do that, but just doing that one time, and then it's just set up and it works. So that's one of the reasons that I like all of these things all together. Okay, thanks for listening. I hope there was something helpful or useful here. Anyway, take good care, and I will be back again with more things. And so I will post this on my Patreon page because it feels like the right place to be posting these things. And as I'm ending, there's thunder. I don't know if you hear that. There's a storm coming. There's thunder, which is kind of cool. I hope that's a good sign. Okay, take care. Bye.